Record, but we can't start until it's exactly the top of the hour because nobody's late yet. So we can't jump the gun. Oh, it just hit the top of the hour. So welcome everybody to another ASEA Global Expansion Team Zoom. We have an incredible presentation prepared for you tonight. We have the amazing Jerry White, who his camera's not on right now, but you'll be able to see his face, I'm sure, here in a second. He's going to talk to us about the amazing technology that we have at our fingertips, unlike anything else in the world. So Jerry, are you there?
Yes, I am, and I have my camera off for just a moment because not everything is exactly the way it seems. In fact, the title of this is going to be a little bit twisted, and in what you saw when they sent out my picture, looked like I was kind of in the international cue ball contest. And so as I come on this evening, you'll notice that something has changed. And so I have now begun to compete again in triathlon. And one of the things I noticed was that the ASEA began to make me look so much younger that people thought that I was competitive. Well, now when I step out and look like Santa Claus at the event, they go, don't worry about the old guy. So it's a strategic maneuver. And so the other twist that I'm going to make with you, thank you so much, Cindy, Dan, for really putting something together globally that gives us the structure to continue to build on what's come before us. Oftentimes in this world, we don't appreciate enough the history and the struggles and the excellence that comes from people developing through the process of believe, belong, become, and growing in ASEA. My name is Jerry White. I'm a Ambassador Diamond in ASEA. And for so many times, I can get a silly bone once in a while, and I don't exactly hit what I was intending to hit when I present. So today is going to be an effort to try to give you something square down the middle in 30 minutes that can really, I think, open up our eyes. I had an opportunity when I first came to ASEA to change the entire trajectory of my family's life. My wife, Marcia, and I were working for so many years, she going this way and working 3 jobs sometimes to keep our 4 kids up and going. And I was this way doing all these international speaking things and physical therapy and coaching at the international level and swimming and triathlon. And then I was building this log house behind me on weekends and evenings in my gym shorts. And so I was always looking for something to do, but there was something in my soul that didn't work. It was my son came to me one day and said, "Dad, why is it that you can go to that hospital?" You see, I was the head of research at the local Shrine Hospital. That's a children's hospital in our area. And in the physical therapy department, they had me set up a laboratory there called the Human Performance and Gait Analysis Lab. And so I was giving to that. I was giving to my coaching. I was giving to my day-to-day therapy experiences. But my son reminded me, he said, "Dad, how is it you can go down to that hospital and play with everybody else's kids, but if you ever come home, there's no time for us?" Man, that just chips away at your soul. It reminded me of when I first was introduced to this, and I want to bring up something. This is going to be the cornerstone of what we talk about this evening. Is that I'll tell you what, I'll wrestle with anybody on planet Earth with the technology that ASEA put out, the potential of it, the depth of the science, how much broader it is than you actually even can begin to comprehend. How many more systems are controlled by literally going down into the smallest little functional component, the cell itself. Each cell has to operate. It has to adapt. It has to adapt to a changing world. It has to adapt to the other organ systems in the body and other cells within the body. It's got to constantly take in information and correct itself and direct itself and to build and to do things. And we're talking about affecting that communication system. In fact, providing the letters of the alphabet that make it work. All the nutrition in the world is pretty amazing stuff, but it's foreign to who you are. And as we add this back. This is actually the letters of the alphabet that allow each part to talk to the other parts. When the clarity goes on, it's like taking a room full of the greatest artisans in the world who are creating, let's say, the space shuttle or the coolest flying automobile you've ever seen, but somebody keeps messing with the lights. And every time somebody makes a request, they have to walk across and stumble over benches because the computer screens aren't working. That's your body and the cells in this world around us. And as that communication gets all messed up, it's slower and slower to react. And that's what makes us get older. We've now figured out a way to turn all that around. And we could go into this and I could show you some stuff that would flip your shoes off and floss between your toes when you figure out what this stuff will do. I was talking to an old guy once who told me, oh, this stuff's slicker than hot buttered doorknobs. It is amazing what it can encompass, but that's not, in my opinion, the greatest of the products at ASEA. So I'm going to throw up on the screen a little slide set that I'm going to use to make an interesting point. But I'll wait for just a second to that. I've been doing this industry for almost 25, 30 years now. And when I started because somebody crashed through my belief systems and touched value sets that changed the whole direction of my life and career. It was a man who was came.
Uh-oh. I think we just Jerry.
Going to be one of those nights again. Yeah, actually, the other night when we were having these technical challenges, there was a lot of people around the world that are having the same technical challenges. So it wasn't just us, and looks like the same things are happening. They're playing with us, Cindy. They're playing with us.
Yeah, no, we were just listening, just about to hear a value set. So let's just see if he's back on yet, and we will promote him again. We're just as stubborn as these people that are messing with us, right?
I was getting really juicy then. Come on. Where is he?
He was right at the cliffhanger. In true Jerry style, he disappeared for a moment to let us digest it, right?
I hope that he knows he's off.
I'm
I
sure
just
he
he's talking to himself right now.
I'll send him a message.
Yeah.
Just
hang tight, everybody. This is a great opportunity to get more of your associates on this call. Jerry is he's just a phenomenal trainer. It's a privilege to have him with us. Really is. Thank you, Cindy and Danny. Yeah.
Yeah, we need him back. We lost you. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's all right, guys. Reach out to your team and get your team on this call. We've got another solid 20 minutes to go when we get Jerry back on. I can tell you he totally fails as a Santa Claus. I mean, from the neck down, he looks unbelievable. No Santa Claus has got a six-pack. I want to know at the end of this call how he looks after himself. Just amazing.
He's coming back. He knows. He says he'll be right here. So hang tight.
Here he is. Can you hear us, mate?
Yes, I can. And I
Oh,
wanted to
thanks
tell
for
you
that.
something.
You're keeping us in suspense. We're all hanging. I mean, we have to do some tap dancing then.
Anything that's really important nowadays, you have to question whether they are censoring us or not.
Oh yeah, we're just talking about that. We're just talking about that. The other thing we were talking about, your ears must have been burning. You fail as a Santa Claus. You just, it doesn't work from the neck down. You look unbelievable. So that'll be my question to you right at the end. What do you do to look after yourself? You're looking amazing, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. We'll probably touch on that at the end, but I got to get into
Sure.
the meat of my stuff.
Okay, let's go.
Cindy's going to kick me out real early. So this
Do you want to know where we lost you, or do you know where we lost you?
I think I know where you lost me because my computer actually died with 35% on battery. So I still had to plug it in. The thing is going bad. So it's now good. We're ready to go. So this guy approached me, and he was for the everyman. His son was a kid that was swimming for me, and he was the most noble kid. It just, every time his dad got sick, which was on a regular basis, and I didn't really know why, he was actually having seizures, and he had so many of them that he would do things like, and he was so bad. I remember one time, just the repeating nature of stair steps in his visual image, he'd go stone stiff, he'd go into a seizure and fall face first down the stairs. So he was always breaking stuff and all that stuff. The thing about this guy was that he came to me with a humble heart, and he said, "Coach, I'm absolutely petrified to talk to you today." But he said, "What has happened to me provided me with the single most important thing besides my walk with my Lord, was I didn't have any dignity. At 53 years old, he'd only been able to make enough in a contribution to the family's income for 3 out of his 53 years of his life." And he said, "I found something, and it changed everything. It changed everything. I now am, I can think for days in a row. I only have my malady once a month, where I used to have it almost daily." And he said, "Coach, I'm afraid to talk to you because letters behind your name, all these things you're doing, all these things you have done. You're my coach's I'm my son's idol." And he said, but he said, "What I have to tell you is so important within my soul to make a difference in people's lives. I don't know how it works really. I know it works around me." He laid down a check on the table and said, "For the first time in my marriage, I made enough money for my wife to drop one of her jobs." And when I looked at the number on that check, it was more than I was making doing all those things. And he said, "All I know is that I know together we could make a bigger difference than I make myself, and I'd be honored if you take a look at it." It busted through all of my shells and all those things that I thought I had to know, and all this science. I was actually an adjunct professor of biomechanics and physiology and anatomy, and all of those things I thought I needed to know. But right there, that human nature of one heart touching another in the values that run it, I'm going to share with you the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest and most important product at ASEA. So here we go. One day in my past, I was in my group in San Diego, and we were asking an interesting question. I was helping them to try to see what many of them apparently couldn't see. And I want to tell you that definitions are incredibly important. How we define things in our lives touches those core values, and we become or think about or do things. And so we had a group of people, about 25 showed up for an evening. It was supposed to be a presentation across a group of guests, but they didn't bring anybody. And so out of those 25 people, I said, I've just got a question for you, because many people were saying it's all about the products. It's all about the products and how they work. And so I want to represent the products. That's what brought me in. It was a product experience, etc. And then they started saying, but if it's about the products and we're trying to get this to the world, then that includes a thing where this really threw people off, called sales. And when they went into sales, their mind shifted. And it's like they smelled a skunk. It was like they stepped in something they had to clean out of their shoe with a popsicle stick. And I thought, I want to find out if we think about this word sales, does it throw them off what we actually do? And so I asked the question, here's our title. It says, what will you believe in enough to duplicate, even down through thousands of generations? So what I did was I asked these 25 people for a couple of word descriptor. I wanted to see what happened when they described it, what happened when they were operating within their definition for the word sales. And what I found was that only 1 out of 25 people had a positive statement about sales. There were so many people that just said getting people to do something they don't want with money they don't have, that you got to be a blabbermouth. You have to be out, you bother people, and you annoying your friends and family. All of those things came out. One just said, sales, I get it, I want it, and everybody needs it. But that's only 1 out of 25. And so people would go there and then they'd get frustrated because they would start to feel out of congruency, something was wrong. And so they would act weird and then they would annoy everybody. So they said, aha, there's another piece to all of this. What we can do is we can run over to this thing they called the business. And so I said, let's try that one. Well, even when some of them were just saying network marketing was their real trigger, but even just the concept of business, I asked them, okay, let's talk about business now. How many people, give me a 1 or 2 word descriptor. And they all came out with things like adult babysitting, you pay yourself last, government rules. I don't know how. I might like to do it, but I don't know what it is. So 24 out of 25 negatives. Now, if those are the only 2 things you have, and you run back and forth between them, it's constant frustration and it feels like you're off balance and you're doing something you wouldn't make your worst enemy do. And you know what? You're going to vibrate that and you're just going to spin like a button on an outhouse door, back and forth, around and around you go, and you're never going to make much progress. But something in that first inspiration, that first invitation came back to me, and I started to question the people in some of these auspicious, amazing triple diamond and above leaders like Dan and the Bucks and just so many others. And what I noticed was anytime that they were asked who came in for the products, most of the hands went up by far. Who came in for the business, few hands would go up. But when they were asked when did you get it? What did you get that said, I'm going to go beyond just this sort of, I'll join these people, to, I got this, I'm going to run this, I'm going to blow it up, I'm going to go until there's no question about it. We crested the mountain. They would talk about neither of these 2 things. What they talked about was the unseen product, the core values, becoming who you really are. It was this concept of the building blocks of a magnificent life well spent. And each one of us, when we get congruent with those core values, and we got now a triangle of different things that make a bigger picture. How do we find those core values, those drivers that say, I love what it says in scripture where it says, when you're congruent, it's called the fruit of the Spirit. These are things that you exhibit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. But it says the second part, which is very interesting. Against such things, there are no laws. So what we want to do is we want to ask ourselves with sales, if you start to feel funny, if you feel like you're not in the right place, if you're not catching, if you're incongruent, there's laws of the universe that are not matching up and you're misrepresenting yourself. The same thing with business. But understand your core values. I began to understand that the core values that were ignited in me was that I needed to be going home and being a mentor with my son and family. I needed to get time so I could create freedom. And those were the values that kept coming out in the stories of people who just flat drove the stake in the sand, blew it up, and went forward. So it seems to me somewhat disingenuous unless we can learn what is the key thing that we're trying to sell as a life well lived, that includes pieces that will take care of the mechanisms that get you time so that you can become. No, at one point when I began to start to realize this, I sat down and wrote down 5 things that I wanted to accomplish when we got done with this business or during the process of developing it. And the first one was wanted to have an amazing life full of adventure. Now, I probably will never come close to Dan in doing that. I think Cindy Buck is kind of like crazy on adventure too. And I wish I could see the rest of you, but those are the ones I know. But for us in our marriage, it was all about adventure. So number one. Number two was with a whole bunch of people that I love and care about. Imagine doing work that looks like that. Number three was to make a much bigger difference together than we could ever make by ourselves. Number four was to give credit to the ones doing the work. Not faking it out, giving credit to a bunch of people who didn't do it, but the ones who are bowling it right down the alley, paying the price and being there. It was when you suffered together. In the something a paraphrase the last line of the Olympic creeds, where it says the true value and the great memories in life come not from the triumph but from the struggle. It's about the personalities that you meet and who you become and the experiences that you develop. What if we told people, we started to look around, and when we start digging for these values, oftentimes you'll get a person that joins the ASEA family, and then they wander away. They're chasing shiny things. Somebody comes up with something that seems better at the moment, and many times they come back. In fact, most of us uplines will tell you that they will come back, and the reason is there is nothing else that can fill these spots. It's too good. And here's one of the things that I most commonly hear, because it's the one place where I can go where I know people are going to be talking about the possibilities and not just tearing down everybody else. We live in a world today where much of people are trying to get bigger by making other people smaller. And I love what Jim Rohn would say. He said, there's two ways to have the tallest business in town, or tallest building in town. And he said, one of them is to tear down everybody else's building. But he said, when you do that, by the time you get to the third building, somebody's going to be standing there with a stick saying, I heard about you. And we've got a world right now that needs to shift to, what can we do together? Tyler just had a little talk just before this, talking about if the cells can communicate, they don't know how to do it wrong. They go back to doing what they always knew how to do. That's the secret behind ASEA. But when people can communicate, people can interact, it's actually limitless. So I sat down with my group of these ultra diamonds. We had a little gathering at our place, and I said, let's try to do something that we can remember. And we put an acronym to it. And the brilliant Maureen Hayes played around with this. And I told a story about tribes, a group of people that come together to accomplish something, that live life in all of its facets and phases together. And so we started to put some words to this and said, if you were to research your memory, was it the word redox that sold you on this game? Was it some experience where your left arm quit hurting? Even some, debilitating thing? Was that the primary driver of keeping you going through the long term? And they said, no, there are other things. And so we said, what would you want? And what drew you, and what was the real kind of cement that brought you to the table? And the first one was started with the letter T. It was trust, truth, then respect. And what if we went to inspiration and integrity for I, and then believe, belong, become? You've all seen it. E is for learning entrepreneurism, for being able to craft and lay down the pathway for the life you want to lead, not to have to follow someone else. With that, we were set. And then a very interesting thing, our founder, Vertus Norton, little story about when Maureen Hayes, Dr. Maureen Hayes, talked to him, and she said, what is the most profound product experience you have seen to date, or that have touched you the most? And he didn't hesitate a moment. He said, it was a lady who had lost all bowel and bladder control. She was incontinent, and she regained it again. And Dr. Hayes said, that seems interesting. Why would that be so important? And he said, because it was a return to basic human dignity. So we put dignity at the end of this and said, if we were going to help develop people understand, what if we tribed them? that we became a verb, that we bring them together and we make a tribe with and of and gather together. And then I trumped it. I put the cherry on the top that meant the most to me when I came to this company, and it was to be able to, I resisted. It was hard for me. I get off track a lot. This is the one that, you know what? I love to just lay my sword down and say, this is what I'm going to be devoted to. I needed a mentor to take me through a lot of things that I was stuck on. And I could see in the founders mentors that could take me to places. And I could see in other diamonds and upper people that I wanted that mentor badly. And I think a lot of us would love to have that mentor. I've had a couple of coaches in my lifetime that changed everything, changed the direction of everything. And I needed to kind of rediscover what it was like to have a mentor. And then I thought, why? What makes me want that mentor? And it's because this world today needs, as much as anything, mentors with life experience, know how it works, to turn around and say, whatever the political winds that blow, we need to mentor each other to become what we can become. And so I put the M at the end, and it didn't spell anything. But we could just say, we tribed them. We got to the point where we turned it into a verb, and it was something we did to bring somebody in. So I guess I'll give you a couple of action steps. At least, I want you to review at least one value that's a core to you and to your family and to your life. And you can really tie this into the mentorship and the understanding and living the higher life by going to the Ethos Academy by Tyler Norton. He's going to have a section of the Ethos Academy at the National Convention coming up in Nashville in a couple of weeks. But there's also recordings in your back office. You can go to your back office at teamasea.com or however you access your back office, log in, go to the menu, open it up. That's a little thing that, if you don't know what this is, I mean, some of us old timers, it's got three little just dashes stacked on top of each other, and it's called a hamburger menu. And so when you see that, that's a menu on a website. Now they're all going, yeah, Grandpa, we knew that 100 years ago. But you click on that, that's your menu, and you go to the library and you click on ASEA Ethos Academy playlist. He'll start reminding you of some of the things that are most valuable in your life at that point. So with that, I wanted to make sure I was well within time frame, struck out, did something that maybe made a difference. And so I will pull back. Did I unshare?
We're doing well. You did, Jerry. Mate, thanks for that. I mean, you're the first person that's actually brought up and spent a little bit of time at the end there on the ethos training, which is super important. I think something else we neglect is the Advancing Life Foundation, which I think as leaders we all need to talk about more. As far as your tribe and your tribedom, and you can tell people they can DM you from that dignity and mentorship in regards to learn what the tribe is and what it's all about.
Dude, when you add people together, none of us is as smart as all of us. And it's so invigorating for stuff you didn't see. That is just awesome. That's great. But I've only just learned within the last week what DM means, so I'm excited to know.
Mate, just quickly from me, there's a lot of people on this call, and I'm always trying to help people. We know redox is foundational. We know nothing works without redox, including everything we're putting into the body. Nothing works effectively or efficiently. So the people on this call want to know how old you are and what do you do to keep yourself fit and healthy from a holistic point of view? Because you're looking, I know not too long ago you had a shoulder problem, but mate, the comeback you have made since I've seen you, you look amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what, first thing is that it has been absolutely ASEA. I was looking at some of the recordings that we did off of Zoom, even just 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And I had that turkey neck. It's hidden by this thing now, but every time I turned my head, the thing stuck out, and it just changed. So one of the things that I did was to say, let's go back to that. I needed some core values to play with every day, and one of them was to improve a little bit. And the best way to do that, I know, is to do it athletically. And our base core and values in our family have always been around that. And Marcia got involved. She's quite the inspirational kind of, she does it by experience, and she gets involved. So she got involved with something I'd been doing for years. Back in 1984, I did my first half Ironman competition. And then I kind of retired from it because it was just, you can't imagine trying to do almost 4 hours and blow yourself up and then think, could I ever go twice that far? So I just kind of backed off, did family, did that kind of stuff for years and years and years. Came back again, took a run at it, but I'd always been doing a little bit of something. And she got into it, and she couldn't go around the block. She could swim and bike like a monster. But she's a terrestrial, she's an aquatic animal. She's not a terrestrial one. She can't breathe. And when she was coming around the corner, you could actually hear her breathing a block away. Arteries sticking out in her neck, and very, very uncomfortable, and face red and all that stuff. Well, over time, this lung thing just started going away with ASEA. She didn't get sick 3-4 times a year. And she started enjoying the process of being in the hunt. She was doing the shorter ones, and but she was consistent and very very devoted to it. Then she got kind of a burr under her saddle in the last couple of years, and says, I'm going to do something bigger and better. And she went on to start doing Olympic distance, which is probably more our deal. It's swim 1 kilometer and then bike 20 or 40 kilometers and then run 10. And so she could finally kind of run walk through that. And then along came her association with the athletes in ASEA, and she met up with 75-year-old Dexter Yates. And Dexter last year talked her into going for a full Ironman. And I'm her training dummy and trying to keep up. I now have my shoulder back, training enough that this last 2 weeks I competed and made some rookie mistakes, but it's so good to be back. And at 66, I won the age group in the first one, and then the second one was twice as long, and I ended up on second on the podium. And she's been the top of the podium in everything she's done in the last since her Ironman expedition. And she only had 3 months to train for the long stuff. It's 140.6 miles. And my son made up a really interesting little sticker that you might see that 140.6 on people's car windows. Hers is 137.6. She missed it by 3.5 miles or 2.5 miles last year. And so it drives her nuts to have that on the back of the deal. And all of us are going there. Here we go. And even my son's going. So that's what we're doing, is we're training every day, 2 or 3 or 4 times a day. And on ASEA, we can still do it. She's 62 and she's just blowing it up. And man, you should see her. She looks great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely inspirational in so many ways. So many ways. Cindy?
Yeah, fantastic. No, I know that we're a little bit past the bottom of the hour, so we should probably wrap it up here. Yeah, but yeah, I love the fact that we have an incredible technology, but the best technology is the business of sharing it with other people. And so we just have to go out there.
Living life together to make something bigger happen than we could ever do for ourselves. And standing on the top of that mountain, what you see, that's why you climb the mountain. Who you become, that's why you climb the mountain. That's what's inside our souls. Remember, Shackleton couldn't get anybody to go on his expedition to the South Pole, put it in the paper over and over again. They were climbing Mount Everest. They were going to the North Pole. He wanted to go to the South Pole in around 1912 or something. And then he put out this strange little ad in the paper in London, and it said something like, wanted adventurers, nearly full-time darkness, unimaginable cold, survival questionable, greatest adventure of your life. And there were 1,500 men the next morning waiting to get on that boat. So we can dig deep and live those life experiences. That is what is worth it. To do what no man's done before, to go where your potential is. So thanks for having me on today. I don't want to blow this up, take too much time.
Absolutely.
You just gave me goosebumps. That was amazing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, with that, we can just say, you know what? There's a lot out there waiting for everybody. So thank you so much, Jerry White. And we'll see you all next Monday.
Here we
Thanks,
go.
mate. Thanks, guys.
Bye.